Independence Rock, the iconic landmark on the Oregon Trail, stands tall above the Sweetwater River Valley in Wyoming. This massive granite boulder was a critical point of reference for westward-bound travelers embarking on their journey to a new life. It was important for them to arrive there around the 4th of July in order to reach their destinations farther west before the beginning of harsh winter weather. After jumping off from locales like Independence, Westport, St. Joseph, and Council Bluffs along the Missouri River, the pastures transformed into lush greenery for their oxen, and Independence Rock stood ahead as both a testament to the progress of their journey and a harbinger of the path remaining. On July 4th, 1930, Independence Rock was the scene of a historic event in the national celebration of the Covered Wagon Centennial. In February 1930, President Herbert Hoover issued a proclamation designating the period from April 10th to December 29th of that same year as the Covered Wagon Centennial observance. This proclamation acknowledged the Oregon Trail Memorial Association as the driving force behind this commemorative event. The opening and closing dates of the centennial had special historic significance. April 10th, 1930, was the 100th anniversary of the departure from St. Louis of a wagon train led by fur traders Jedediah Smith, David Jackson, and William Sublette. Their caravan to the Rocky Mountains in 1830 had demonstrated the feasibility of wagons navigating what later became the route of the trail. This caravan reached the rock on July 4th, and Sublette is credited with naming it Independence Rock in honor of the birth of the nation on that date. Father Pierre-Jean de Smet, a Jesuit missionary and explorer, gave it the informal name Register of the Desert, as many emigrants had inscribed their names and dates on the rock. December 29, 1930, the final day of the centennial, was the 100th anniversary of the birth of Ezra Meeker, the legendary Oregon Trail pioneer who began a mission in the early 1900s to mark and memorialize the path of the historic trail. He founded the Oregon Trail Memorial Association in 1926, 2 years before his death. The mission begun by Meeker to preserve the trail hung in balance after his death in 1928, awaiting new leadership of the association to carry the torch forward. Howard Driggs assumed the presidency of the association, and George Pratt became chairman of the board. Together, they spearheaded a new initiative to continue Meeker's mission. Dr. Driggs, a professor of English education at New York University, was the son and grandson of Mormon Trail pioneers. He was also the editor of the World Book Company's Pioneer Life series and had collaborated with Meeker in the publication of his book, Ox Team Days on the Oregon Trail. Mr. Pratt, a prominent figure in business, conservation, and philanthropy, played a vital role in the formation of the Boy Scouts of America in 1910 and served as its national treasurer. He had been a supporter of Meeker prior to his demise. Both men shared an acute awareness of the trail's historical significance and mirrored Meeker's fervor for preservation. In 1929, Dr. Driggs invited the renowned Western photographer William Henry Jackson to join the organization as its director of research. Driggs embarked on a journey across the West during the summer of the same year, rallying support from organizations and individuals who shared a mutual passion for the Oregon Trail Memorial Association's mission. In August 1929, he met in Casper with Robert Ellison and a group of other Wyoming leaders and described the need for a challenging program that would rouse the whole nation. The plan, developed by the new leadership of the Oregon Trail Memorial Association, was presented to President Hoover by Reed Smoot and Ray Lyman Wilbur. Smoot, a United States Senator from Utah, was an honorary vice president of the OTMA. Dr. Wilbur, the Secretary of the Interior, was a member of the board of directors. Planning began for a series of events throughout the country, including the event at Independence Rock on July 4th. On March 30th, the New York Times reported on the plans for the participation of the Boy Scouts in that event. James E. West, chief executive of the Scouts, said,
"This commemoration camp at Independence Rock, to pay tribute to our American pioneers, will acquaint Scouts with many of America's historic traditions. It will enable them to comprehend more clearly the old Western life of the plains, and it will give them an active part in marking old trails and historic shrines which are identified with the opening and development of the West."
Henry Ford, who had created the Oxmobile for Ezra Meeker in 1928, generously made it available for the event at Independence Rock. The vehicle was driven to New York to pick up a group of Boy Scouts and take them to Wyoming. The first stop on their trip was to meet with Governor Franklin D. Roosevelt, who gave them a letter to carry to the governor of Wyoming. Scouts came from around the country and participated in the weekend event along with dignitaries, pioneers, Native Americans, trail enthusiasts, and citizens from throughout the West. The highlights of the weekend were captured on film. After the event, the Casper Tribune-Herald wrote,
"A new page in Wyoming history was written Friday when approximately 6,000 citizens, pioneers, and scouts gathered at Independence Rock. It was an event such had never before taken place in the state, or in the entire nation for that matter. The eyes of the nation were focused on the rock and the program presented there. One of the outstanding features of this observance, its climax, was the trek of the Boy Scouts from the four corners of the nation."
The celebration was a monumental occasion featuring speeches, camping, the installation of markers and plaques, and an air of jubilation. Concluding the centennial year, a gala dinner organized by the Oregon Trail Memorial Association to honor Meeker on what would have been his 100th birthday took place in New York on December 29th. Subsequently, in 1931, officers of the association and a group of Boy Scouts who had participated in the celebration at Independence Rock were greeted by President Hoover in a ceremony on the White House lawn. Plaques created by the association to mark key sites along the Oregon and Pony Express trails were presented to the president in this ceremony. The work begun by Ezra Meeker found continuity through dedicated individuals who recognized the immediate threat to the preservation movement upon Meeker's death. Howard Driggs, alongside a dozen of his associates, are now celebrated in the Oregon-California Trails Association Emigrant Trail Hall of Fame for their outstanding leadership in safeguarding the movement and igniting the spirit of subsequent generations to continue this vital mission. Among their esteemed peers stood Merrill Mattis, who would go on to become one of the founding members of OCTA. The movement is alive today, and you can be part of it. Your membership and support enabled the Oregon-California Trails Association to continue to protect the historic trails and preserve their legacy. Join OCTA to discover your trail and explore your impact.